Hi YouTube, we're here with the ASW-28 by Lanyu, Volantex. Basically today what we're going to be doing is we're going to start the build series, which is going to entail, first of all, discussing the electronics that I'll be modifying in here, which is minimal. You wouldn't have to do the mods, and then my picks for the plug-and-fly choice on the radio system. So we got this manual here, and I just want to show you. This is a pretty decent manual. Now my kit did come with glue, which is nice. Got to glue on the winglets and things like this. And this is a pretty decent instruction manual. This will be my second one, guys. My first one is over in that pile, and that was because of some choices I made on prop size, and I went up to 4S on stock electronics system, and I just ended up killing stuff. So anyway, about the only place in this manual that deviates from reality is that they've got this connection rod that's got a couple of screws. We don't have that because this is a version 2. Version 2 means it's got these clips, and the way the wing works is you can depress this. You see how it drops back in there? Well, what that does is that clip is received on this plastic piece here. And incidentally, I only know this from having gone through a terrible crash on my first one. These screws here hold in the tray there, and then there's 1, 2, and then 3, 4 that hold in the tray here. So if you ever decide to take that out, and then of course there's a large bolt that holds in the wheel. I like the wheel. The wheel really helps for landing. It's very uneventful on this plane. So a couple things I noticed. I don't know if I mentioned in the unboxing, but I have kind of a bad trim job on this from whoever was doing the work in China. And so I've got to retrim a little bit on the back. I mean, I'd rather have a little bit more that needs to be trimmed down than have a little bit too little. That's bad because it's kind of hard to make up material. So anyway, that was a little bit of a disappointment. And also I think I may have showed putting these rods in the other orientation, where the long one was forward and the short one was back. This is the way it's supposed to be. So without further ado, my first order of business, of course, is I want to talk about the parts that we're going to be using on this plane. The only reason I'm taking these out is they like to run into things. And these are aluminum. They're hollow tubes, and they're very strong and sturdy, and they help. They're wing joiners. But what I was going to do is I was going to walk you out and show you I got a couple of, when you have a big plane like this, you need somewhere to work. And so I have a table saw that I use. It's a portable table saw, and I have a couple of old pillows that my wife has approved me wasting. And these are nice because if you drop CA through your work or whatever, it's no big deal. And they work nice for helping to finish protect the finish on foam planes. I do a lot of foam planes, as you guys know. So it works good, and then the white backdrop helps a little bit. I mean, otherwise you'd be right up against an aluminum table, and I can resize this table too, which is really nice. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that. I know sometimes you guys see my build videos, but you don't always see the area I'm working in. And then we have a little kitchenette in our basement, so we got this stuff set up here. And what I did is I took some lids from these large Sterilite plastic containers, and I'm using them as tables. So like if I want to clean up this area, I can just grab the whole lid and go. Because that's half the battle, is just getting to a place where you can set everything out, because these planes get so big as you're putting them together, and then you can spend some time. So anyway, two things I'm going to take away from my initial ASW-28 experience. One, the prop size by default at 10.6 is just maybe a little bit lame. It's not quite enough power. The good news is the power system can handle a bigger prop. Okay, I think I went a little bit bigger on my first one than I did on this one. I think I did a 12.8. This is a 12.7. And you can see a pretty significant difference. I have the spinner taken apart here because we'll talk about that in a minute. But you can see that this is a significantly larger prop. But it's got the same spread, so it's positionally the same in terms of wrapping the nose. And it's got the same shaft adapter, which prop shaft is, I believe, 4 millimeters on this. And what ends up happening is you can buy these things. This is a Hobby King deal, so I'll link to that somewhere. And the only problem is this thing doesn't line up with the nose. And so I was going to show you that. This was my plan, was to just use this full assembly to kind of hold down caution on. So I just wanted to show you how that ended up fitting on there. There's just a single screw that holds the spinner in there. And obviously this will fit onto the shaft, which is super nice. But it looks a little dumb because it's the wrong size. Now it's fine for the spinner and it would work, and it does look kind of cool. I was really hoping that was going to be the right size, because that would look nice having that spinner, that metallic spinner. That's one of the things I'm not crazy about on this plane, is the red spinner. And so I have some ideas on how we can kind of get the best of both worlds. Like I said, I'm not crazy about the red spinner. I don't mind that. But on the actual spinner that you get for the prop, this is the dummy spinner, okay? It's like if you're just going to stick that on there, they give you these blocks, and you can block that out for like slope saw. What I was thinking about doing is trying to use this red nose cone on there to actually make it fit properly. And of course we're going to keep everything else, with the exception of this part. The screw that holds that down will actually be used. This will be set aside, and then this is bigger, so we can actually trim that to fit and potentially screw down. Now I'm not 100% sure that's going to end up working, but that's kind of one of my thoughts. The other option, of course, is to just take these out, which interestingly enough, it looks like it's got a lock nut on both sides, and it must be thread all. That's kind of weird. But I can take that out, and I can just stick these into the factory spinner. They will fit, and you can tell that by just holding these side by side like this. And you can verify that you're going to have a decent fit. Okay? And what that does for us is it gives us the best of both worlds. That's what I did on the first one, and I may end up doing that if the spinner doesn't work out. So anyway, just wanted to give you that 10,000 foot view there. The second thing that I learned, lesson learned from version 1, is the electronic speed control has some timing issues that I ran into, where you would try to start the motor and it would kind of like not start right. And you can see that in my older videos. But the electronic speed controls back here, it's a Volantex speed controller. And you can't see the label on that, but I actually, I ended up killing my Volantex speed controller on another project after I'd taken it out. But this is just kind of the remnants of it. And so you can see on here it's a 30 amp brushless 2 through 4 LiPo ESC. And it does have a BEC in it. So, sorry guys. So just to show you what it looks like underneath all the heat shrink and underneath the heat sink. And I got some damage here. Okay, so that's what it looks like. And it's got this really rinky-dink heat sink. So I wasn't super impressed with that. It doesn't really matter that it's not especially impressive, because you don't need that much power. It's a 30 amp ESC, but I wanted to review that with you. So my options for ESCs goes as follows. I have a 30 amp YEP ESC, and this has a 4 amp at 5.5 volts DC S-back, as opposed to a regular BEC. This has a regular BEC, and it's at 3 amps at 5 volts. So do the math, okay? 4 times 5.5 is much larger than 3 times 5. So this is going to give us a lot more power. Now, why do we need power in this application? We need power because we're going to be running a stabilizer if you're following through and doing everything exactly the way I am. YEP makes an ESC that's very good. The only complication you have with the YEP ESC is that you do have to get the YEP programming card, or you're not going to be happy with it. there's some features on YEP that are weird. And that's because you can use a YEP receiver for an airplane or a helicopter, and so there's some crossover stuff that's maybe not so easy to understand for newbies. Now the other option is I've got an Aerostar 40 amp that has a 3 amp BEC at 5 volts. Okay, so that's a good BEC, and it's fine, and it would work. But because we had problems, and remember, this is 40 amps compared to 30 amps. The stock one's 30 amps. The other thing is about this. Look how small this thing is. It's dinky. And then let's just juxtapose it to this. Okay, it's similar in size. Oops, I just got the heat shrink, or excuse me, I just got the heat sink. 2 caps, 1 cap. Okay, so just to give you an idea, look how much smaller that is. So it is a lot smaller, and usually S-backs are actually a lot bigger. This one, the S-back chip is down here, and it will make a bulge. You can always tell when it's got an S-back or a U-back, because they'll have a bulge on the opposite side from all the FETs. Hope I'm saying that right. So anyway, there's that. That's kind of what I'm leaning toward. There's 40 amp. That would be a perfectly fine option. We have a 20 amp with a U-back. Now, the only reason I would go with a 20 amp is because this has a U-back instead of a BEC. And that one is 5 volts at 3 amps as well, so probably not going to go with that. This one I'd use briefly in another glider. This is 30 amps with a 2 through 4 handling. It's got a 5 volt at 3 amps. So you're noticing a trend here, guys. These guys are all 3 amps at 5 volts, okay? This one's good, but it's only a 20 amp, probably a little bit too small. And this is what I do when I get a new plane, guys. I just lay out my electronics that I have available, and I think about what one's going to work. And then if I don't like it, then I buy something. Okay, then the big dog. I have a 60 amp with an S-back that has a 5.5 volts at 4 amps. Guys, I just want to show you something. Look at the difference in size. I mean, this is 30 amp, this is 60 amp. But here's the catch, guys. This will handle 2 through 4S still. This only handles a 4S pack. This handles a 2 through 4 LiPo, okay? Actually, it's Li-XX, meaning it can be LiPo or Li-Fi. This doesn't expressly mention that it can handle Li-Fi, but I bet it can. I'm sure it's fine. Okay, I do have a programming card for this too. Okay, and then I also have this programming card, which is a Durafly. Durafly will a lot of times do the programming on these. Let's just be honest, guys. On a Hobby King ESC plush, or like this style is just a. I think it's not plush line. You don't have to have the programming card. It's kind of nice if you have it, because really all I'm concerned with on a glider application is turning braking on the motor. So that's a quick rundown. It looks like the option is pretty much already made for me. It's going to be this with this. Now, why else is that good? It's either this or this, okay? We're going to be powering from the BEC this 7-channel with stabilization. I get the end pin and I get the diversity antennas, meaning there's 2 of them in there. And this is DSMX for a Lemon RX, 7-channel with stabilization. This is actually an 8-channel receiver. The top channel, auxiliary 3, is for the master gain. Channel 5, okay, is the gear channel. That's going to be on-off for the stabilizer, if you have the stabilizer on. And then, of course, the bind plug is auxiliary 2. That's how you actually plug into auxiliary 2. Now, auxiliary 3 you can't actually use. There's no way to hook up to it without getting into the PPM side of things. Now, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not even going to talk about it. But the thing is, you can definitely use all 7 channels. If you don't want to have the stabilizer, you can use everything up to aux 2, and then aux 3 just wouldn't function anything. So, real quick rundown. Love these things. Definitely link to that below. And in my last one, I ended up putting that kind of up on the tray. Not 100% sure how I'm going to line this up. When this plane is done, one of the issues that you'll find is that you have to get a little bit of weight close to or just after the CG to get this thing to balance out properly. And part of that comes from Patrick in this case. Patrick makes this plane heavy in the nose. Normally on a glider, you need to add nose weight or tail weight, depending on, you know, how it is. In this case, it ends up being that you have quite a bit more plastic up here, and it's heavy. And you can juxtapose that to a more expensive model that would be like a composite glider like this. They have a very, very light body. Foam and plastic, blown plastic, ABS, they have a lot less light body, but they're also very strong. And this won't damage the same way fiberglass will. So there's some major advantages there. So guys, I know this video is probably not super exciting for you, but I'm going to get all these questions. I already know it. And so I just want to head it off by giving the quick overview on my plans. And we're going to move on to the build video next. And there'll be a series, of course. So stay tuned, guys. Keep coming back for more. We're going to probably go ahead and start by getting the radio tentatively set up in the next video. So come back for that. And the reason we're going to start with that is just for the simple fact that we can go ahead and get all the control surfaces centered as we go. So thanks for watching, guys. Come back for more. This is Brian Phillips signing out on part 1 of the build video setup.